Hey everyone, this is Jeff Risdon from Detroit Lions Podcast and the Lions Wire with another edition of the Video Mailbag. Alright, I have some good questions here from the Patreon Slack for the podcast. If you want to join, get $5 a month, gets you into the Slack, the most intelligent Lions chat on the internet. Got some good questions here. I printed them out, so we'll take them in the order that they were printed here. First off, from my guy Big Bad Fab. Good dude, by the way. I met him in person last week. Thanks, buddy. You know what for. Am I silly to like Treylon Burks as a big slot and thinking he could be used in a receiving way similar to a tight end, diminishing the need for a tight end too? It's an interesting question because he is sort of the same size as the wide receiver-esque tight ends that have come into the league. I'm thinking of guys like Irv Smith, Harrison Bryant in Cleveland, some of those kind of guys who are much more receiving-oriented tight ends who are basically just like wide receivers, but they're too big to be a wide receiver. And Burks he's close to that. He doesn't necessarily have the receiving chops for that or the block. Like he's a good blocker. He will definitely get after people. But it's different when you're attacking on the perimeter and then when you're asked to go find a linebacker as a tight end at the second level and wall off a seam or something like that. That's something that he would have to learn. He has the size for it. He certainly has the mentality for it. But it's a bit of a stretch, yeah, but it's not absurd. And using him as a physical presence as a wide receiver, like, they're pretty good at that. That's something that I think that you saw the Lions do well last year with having physical presences at wide receiver, and tight end is certainly a need. If you're one of the many Lions fans who wants nothing to do with any other tight ends ever being drafted ever, first off, you need to get over that. Secondly, yeah, this is one of the alternative solutions to doing that. So yeah, it would be a nice byproduct, but he would have to grow into that role. That's something that isn't quite there yet. Next question. And I got this question, actually, this is from Mongo, but there were very similar, a lot of similar questions. So I'm going to roll into the same one here. I talked about Brad Holmes' aggressiveness and how you don't anticipate them having both firsts next year. That is something that I've said on the podcast a couple times. They have 2 first-round picks in 2023, and no, I don't expect them to keep them both. They're either going to be packaged together next year to move up, or they will like somebody at the end of the first round this year and use it, or early first day next year, or second day on Friday, and move that up. I think I still think that's a very distinct possibility. I've cooled a little bit on the fact that, I don't think they're going to use them both. Like, just on where they're at 32 and 34, that gives them a pretty good range, or if they want to target somebody at 24 or 23. Like, they can package those 2 picks and move up and keep the picks for next year. Or they can say, hey, we'll give you 32 or 34 and the first round pick next year. I do think that's something that's, I don't want to say it's likely to happen, but I think that's certainly plausible that it would happen this coming week. Look, Brad Holmes is definitely aggressive. If he sees the player that he likes, he will not, in fact, wait to trade up for him. That's something that the Rams have done repeatedly. Something that John Dorsey, in Cleveland did repeatedly when he was the GM. Like, they are aggressive people. Kansas City did it too. That's how they got Patrick Mahomes. It wouldn't surprise me. It's got to be the right player though, and I'm not sure that in this draft class that they're going to find that right player that also they don't think wouldn't fall to 32 or 34. Hope that makes sense. I hope that's clear. Basically, it's like if they have a player that they really, really target that they don't think will be there at 32, yes, I can see them moving one of the first rounders next year along with 32 or 34 to move up and get it. But again, it's tough to predict it this year because like we don't know who they're taking at 2 yet. And it's interesting. Thank you, by the way. I didn't get asked who I thought they were taking at 2 because I'm doing this. It's Monday morning draft week, and we don't know yet. I have a pretty good idea it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. But we don't know that yet. Next question. Trading partners. This is from Barry Fontes. Which position of positions where everyone thinks they need to pick might they end up not selecting? He's got edge, linebacker, safety, and receiver listed here. And this is through the first 3 rounds, so their first 5 picks, which is 2, 32, 34, 66, and 97. in that range, I still struggle to think that they're going to take a linebacker there. And again, it's more of a case of I don't think they need one that badly. Remember, they brought in Chris Board. That's their outside. They brought in Jared Davis. Consider those guys as like the draft picks that are competing with Derek Barnes, who they traded up for last year. They're clearly going to give him a shot to run it. They brought Anzalone back. He wasn't at the league minimum. He's making a little bit more than that. And they got Sean Dion Hamilton back. Like that's their core, guys. Like I don't particularly like it. I know a lot of people really don't like it. I think they think they're good there. I really do. And I've been led to believe that by some other folks too. So I don't see linebacker there. Would I take one? Yeah, if you check out the what I would do mock draft that I put up on LionsWire last week, I had them taking Channing Tindall in the 3rd round, and I would love that. But I just don't see that. Wide receiver's an interesting one too. I don't know where they're at on it, to be frank. They could take one at 32 or 34. I kind of think that they're going to wait on that. I think they're going to get more bang for their buck with the draft range, because I think the top wide receivers are going to be gone. I don't think you're going to get Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson or Jamison Williams or Treylon Burks there. And it's too early for Christian Watson. It's probably too early for Alec Pierce. Might not be in the latter case, and he would certainly be interesting. But I think that area around 66 and even 97 is where you're going to get that next year. Guys like Romeo Dubes comes into play. Calvin Austin comes into play. And I think that's more of if you're not getting an alpha dog wide receiver and you're not getting one at 32 and they're not taking one at 2, that's clear, then is there really that big of an impetus to draft your number 3 wide receiver at 32 or at 34 or 32 or 66 even? When you've already, Amon-Ra is clearly 1A. I think Josh Reynolds, in the time that he's going to be here, is going to be highly used. Like DJ Shark is here for this year. I think that's a position where they might be able to roll with it this year. So I don't think that they're going to spend a more premium pick on a wide receiver that isn't premium. That's my take on it anyways. We'll see what happens on Thursday night. That's the caveat for all these. Remember, you should be listening to Ozzy Osbourne's Don't Ask Me, I Don't Know in the background on loop this week whenever you're listening to anything draft-related, because a lot of us, we're just guessing here, folks. I'll at least tell you when I'm guessing. I'll be frank about that. He also had a follow-up question on this. Which order of position does everyone think they're so good at that do the Lions surprise and take someone? He listed offensive line, defensive tackle, and running back here. I absolutely think they're taking a defensive tackle, and it wouldn't shock me if they took one at 32 or 34. I know that would seem out of character, but remember, Brad Holmes, college defensive lineman. Where did the Rams build a lot? Defensive line. This is the guy who was part of the organization that kept drafting defensive linemen. They're in need, I think, and they know it. They have to replace what they lost this offseason. Like Michael Brocker's also not going to be around forever. Nick Williams is gone. Like they have holes on that to fill. Hopefully Levi Onwuzurike steps up and fills that. I'm pretty happy at nose tackle. I believe they are too, with Elaine McNeil and John Pennicini. But that 3 technique, you better believe they still need one, and they are aware of that too. So I put this. Check it out on Lines where I did my 5 draft thoughts and bold prediction. My bold prediction was that they're going to take Eric Johnson, the defensive tackle from Missouri State, in the 6th round. And like maybe that's not as early as what Barry was asking here, but I do think that they're going to take a defensive tackle. And God, I really hope they don't take a running back. Come on, you took a 7th round running back last year, who's good by the way, Jermar Jefferson. That's an NFL running back. He was inactive all the time. There isn't room for him. They signed Craig Reynolds for 2 years. If you draft a running back, you're throwing all that away. It wouldn't make sense to me. Doesn't mean they won't do it, but it wouldn't make sense to me. Which one did I want to do here? Okay, good. We'll stick with some later round guys. This is from Biziski. I hope I said that right. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. I've been looking at later round prospects, and what are your thoughts on these guys? Micah McFadden, Scott Nelson, and Justin Ross. I'll take them in order. Micah McFadden, linebacker from Indiana. He is this year's version of Scooby Wright, a guy who was all over the field in college, makes tackles, hard-nosed. Your high school football coaches emblematic, like, this is what I want you to be as my linebacker in high school. He's just not that athletic in college or for the NFL. He made some plays, but I think of like how the Ohio State game really sticks out. Like they just completely neutralized him, and he's not that great of a tackler. He's certainly good, but I think he's a guy that's going to come in and be a backup inside linebacker and special teams guy. And I personally don't draft that. Doesn't mean that the Lions won't, but I'm not doing that unless they are really, really athletic, like Devontae Beckett is already on the team. Anthony Pittman, who's already on the team. Like they kind of have that backup linebacker special teams role filled. So I think he's going to get drafted probably 6th, 7th round, but it's tough to ask more about that. Scott Nelson, God, I wish he was healthy. The safety from Wisconsin. He's got some really, really nice film when he's on the field, but it's tough to keep that guy on the field. So, I just in general, I am more averse to injuries than most draft evaluators. That's something that I will always err on the side of caution there, and I'm going to err on the side of caution with Scott Nelson, unfortunately. It was just too bad because there's a really good football player in there. And I evaluated his game tape very highly, but there just ain't enough of it. Justin Ross. Same thing, wide receiver from Clemson. It's frustrating because like 2 years ago, sort of like with Derek Stingley, like if he was coming out, this was a top 10 pick, and now the injuries have piled up. When he did play, he didn't do a whole lot. I think you saw more of the holes in his game, that he didn't have the elite athleticism, and it's unfortunate. This is another guy. He's going to get drafted. I'm going to guess like in the 100 to 125 range. And that's too rich for me. I just wouldn't do it now with the injury history. Again, that's my thought. Doesn't necessarily mean that the Lions or other teams think that way. Let's go on here. All right. What are your thoughts on when they will take a receiver from Logan? I kind of covered that a little bit. And this is, it's got to be the right kind of receiver. Like I think they need a slot. I like the idea of having Amon-Ra be able to play in the slot and outside. It's something that the Browns did very well with Jarvis Landry, who is very similar to Amon-Ra in terms of playing style and demeanor. Amon-Ra is a better athlete than Jarvis Landry, and Landry was a Pro Bowler several times and Mr. Consistency. But I love the way that Cleveland was able to balance him inside and outside, and it got a lot easier to do that when they got another option alongside him. That was one of the reasons why Odell Beckham was done. You're not going to get that kind of guy in Detroit this year. And we talked about like the scarcity of the position after that top tier goes away. It changes it. But if they can get a guy like Calvin Austin is a great example. He's a small guy, but he's an outside receiver. Like, can you pair him like they already have a guy like that in Khalif Raymond. I think Austin is a much better wide receiver overall. But yeah, this is the range again where it's really tough to see where they go before like the second or basically the third round at wide receiver. And, Sky Moore, he's not going to be there. I think some of the other candidates, like Velus Jones from Tennessee, great example of it. There are a couple of issues. He's overaged, doesn't necessarily have the blocking prowess that you would like. I think that's sort of the class of wide receiver they're in there. They're not going like deep developmental guys, but Eric Ezekama is more of an outside receiver. Somebody who's useful in a role where Amon-Ra can play off of it, I think would be the goal. And again, it sounds crazy to build around a fourth round wide receiver from a year ago, but we all saw the Sun God and how he finished the year, and the arrow's pointing way up on that. And I don't want to curb that. I want to keep enhancing that. Do one more quick one here. Oh, quick relative. From Zinspire, how comfortable are you in settling down with Jared Goff as the long-term answer at quarterback? And he asked a little follow-up on it. Can you please reference his 2018 games versus Minnesota and Kansas City before answering? I feel like a lot of Lions fans haven't seen what he has been capable of. And this is something that's interesting because this came up on Twitter over the weekend too, where people were citing back to his playoff games, and plural, he was good in those games too, with the Rams. And one of the issues, and we've talked about this before, one of the reasons why he's in Detroit now is because that Jared Goff left the building. He wasn't that same guy anymore, whether that's on Goff, whether it's on Sean McVay, whether it's on the supporting cast around him in Los Angeles. Like, there's a whole confluence of factors there. But that Jared Goff we haven't really seen him again since that really, really good time. Had a very good playoff performance in his last game as a Ram, but beyond that, they clearly needed to get rid of him. They made the right decision in getting rid of him and upgrading Matthew Stafford. And you saw, we all watched it. It won them a Super Bowl. If that motivates Goff to get back to being that guy, and if having a better supporting cast around him he can be the Andy Dalton, the Kirk Cousins, the Ryan Tannehill, that tier quarterback. Guys that you can win a lot of games with, and maybe a playoff game or two if you get some breaks and your defense makes a play or two. But he's not going to be the guy who's going to lead you over the top. And that's a tough place to be. It's not necessarily purgatory. I think Andy Dalton in Tennessee was a little bit more purgatory than that. But it's also you got to have things just break right, man. I think Kyler Murray is progressing to be that guy in Arizona. Things have to work really right for him in order for it to work. And when it does, it's great. When it doesn't, you're I don't know, man. Dak Prescott, I think Dak is better than Jared Goff, but I think they're sort of in the same boat in Dallas, or at least they think they are. That's why they keep bringing receivers and weapons in for him all the time and neglecting their defense by and large. I don't want that to happen with Goff, and I want, and this is something, and I put it in a piece that went up at Lions Wire today. I referenced it earlier, about the five thoughts for the draft. I like the idea, and this was planted to me from somebody who knows what's going on in Allen Park very well. The idea of having a quarterback come in and push Jared Goff and really legitimately threaten his job is something that I would like to see them do, and I think it's a thought that has been planted in that decision-making room. Let's push him. Let's see how he responds to that. Whether it's Malik Willis, whether it's Sam Howell, whether it's Matt Corral, whether it's Desmond Ridder, an actual viable threat to his job. Somebody better than Tim Boyle. Not that that's hard to find. But that is something that is definitely under consideration in Allen Park. Is it going to happen? God, I hope so. I really do. It kind of sold me, quite honestly. And as most people who would be watching this know, I've been pretty anti-quarterback, especially at certainly not at 2, but even at 32. I would prefer to build the team up and worry next year in what I think is going to be a better second tier of quarterback class than this year. But if you can do that, and it inspires Goff in the way that having Jordan Love inspired Aaron Rodgers to be like that, yeah, I'll take that. I would like that. So that's long-term Goff. I need to see him finish or play a full season the way he finished last year, the final 6 games, because the first 10 where he played, he was not even a top 20 NFL starter, and you cannot win that way. Now at the end of the year, was he in that 8 to 15 range where if things go well you can win? Yeah, he was, and I think he can be there again. But if you've got a chance to do something better than that, you need to take it. So that's where we are. Quick updates. The podcast is doing a mock draft tomorrow night. I will not be available to do it, unfortunately. You'll have to watch it without me. But we will be doing a lot of stuff live over the weekend during the show, online draft party. Check it out on the podcast. I will be in and out on that. It's my busy writing time. I will write over 120 things from Thursday morning till Sunday afternoon. So I don't have a whole lot of time to yap, but I will try to poke my head in and everything. And again, as always, be well and go Lions.